In preparation for our crock pot pulled pork, what we want to do is take an onion. I prefer sweet onions, and we want to cut this onion into large rings that we're going to put underneath the actual meat itself so that it props up, if you will, that pork butt that we have that's been marinating overnight. So we'll just clean up this onion real quick, and then as we do, we pop the rings out into the bottom of the crock pot, again, so that you create that platform, and as well it adds some good flavor to the cooking process. Now, in many cases you don't need the whole onion, so we're just going to put enough in there to start that. Clean this off. Now, what we want to do, like our board, our knife, is we're going to want to take the pork butt that we marinated. And if you remember, we tried to do this fat side up. And if we're very careful, we should be able to get this out without making too much of a mess. There's that nice pork butt. That rub stuck to it, so as carefully as you can. Both sides of that. Set that into the crock pot. Okay. Very important to make sure that your crock pot is going to be large enough to support a sized piece of meat. This should neatly fold up and be discarded. Quick wipe of the hands. Now, what we want to do is just take some water. So just have some regular tap water and fill in around the sides of this so that the very top does not get wet. You should leave that about a ½ inch or so below the edge, because again, the meat's going to create some liquid. Put the lid on it, set that on high for 8 hours in the crock pot, and we'll come back and show you how to pull that pork. So our pork butt that we marinated overnight has been in the crock pot cooking away all day, makes the house smell really, really good. Had about 8 hours on the crock pot. You can go a little more, a little less depending on its size. One of the first things I want to do is get some of this great juice that's in here and set aside some for later so I can add back into, so I'm reserving, as it's known, some of the liquid. And don't worry about if there's fat as well as that nice onion water. I'll save about a cup, set that off to the side. We're going to use that later on. We get done pulling it and actually introduce a little bit more rub and a little bit of juice to make sure that it's good and moist as we go through the process. So pulling is very, very simple. I want to be able to separate the meat. You can see it pulls apart very nicely. Separate the meat, shred it just a little bit from any of the fat that's involved in, or any of the gristle that's involved. So you do that into 2 different bowls and separate the meat. Okay, so usually this comes apart in large chunks. Put it in, separate it up, and we'll go back through with a pair of forks and break that down. But for now, we want to make sure we get the fat